It's finally starting to get cold outside, so now is the perfect time of year to talk about one of the most crucial things about growing fruit trees, and that is chill hours. And I'm totally kidding, it's really hot outside still, so I'm gonna take this off, but I'm not wrong. Fall is a great time of year to plant fruit trees, but there's something that's not talked about very much, and that is this idea of chill hours. So in this video, we're gonna talk all about chill hours, what they are, what they do for fruit trees, and most importantly, what you need to know about them to help your fruit trees thrive. Chill hours, or sometimes you'll hear it called chill units, is the amount of cold time that you accumulate over the course of the fall and winter in your area. And this is while the trees are dormant. Now, similarly, you might also hear the term chilling requirement, and that's related. That's basically specific to the plant. So it's the amount of chill hours, the amount of chill time that a specific plant or fruit tree needs to grow and fruit come spring and come out of dormancy. So those two things are definitely related. And you know, it's a little bit like calories for us, right? I only need a certain amount of calories to get through my day and just kind of function, right? But that may or may not be equal to the amount of calories that I consume. And depending, you know, if I don't get enough calories, I might be headachy and cranky and just kind of not functioning my best. Or if I take in too many calories, I'm gonna get sluggish and tired and I'm gonna gain weight. There's gonna be consequences to that. And that's a little bit like chill hours for plants. So for an example, this grapevine that I'm wrestling with here is called razzmatazz, and it's a grapevine that needs 300 to 400 chill hours. And now in my climate, I know that on average, my area gets between 600 and 700 chill hours. So I know with pretty good confidence that this grapevine is going to get the chilling that it needs to fruit next year. I actually think it's pretty interesting that scientists aren't exactly sure what happens to plants when they go dormant in the winter, and they're not really specific on this whole chill hours thing. There needs to be a lot more research done. And that's because, like people, plants are complex living organisms that have all of these systems and things that work together. So what we do know is that, and you know, it gets way more specific than this, and experts can take you even further, but basically there's a hormone that's sort of signaled by shortening days and falling temperatures that tells the plant, okay, it's time to go dormant, it's time to hibernate. And they shut down their buds and they shut down growth and conserve energy over the course of the winter. And what seems to be the case specifically for fruit trees and fruiting plants is that depending on the fruit, they need a specific number of accumulated cold hours over the course of the dormancy to help them fruit the next year. So it's a combination of getting enough cold as well as the temperatures warming up and the sun shining more in spring that wakes them up from dormancy. But it's really the chill hours that determines how well those buds are going to flower and fruit the following season. So all of this information about chill hours is great, but why do you need to know this? Well, this is really important information when it comes to selecting what sort of fruit and nut trees that you might want to grow in your area. I mean, once you've planted a tree, there is little to nothing you can do about how many chill hours they get. It's kind of determined by Mother Nature. And there's more to it than that, and maybe that's a topic for another video, but basically, once it's planted, you're out of luck. So it really comes down to choosing the right plants that correspond to the chill hours in your climate. So let's talk about how to find your average chill hours. There's a lot of different ways that chill hours are calculated depending on what they're going to be used for in agriculture or gardening. But either you'll see just the total number of hours spent below 45 degrees, or more often you see the hours counted between 45 and 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Because whatever magic happens to fruit trees when they're dormant doesn't seem to be the same when you get below that freezing threshold. So 32 to 45 is that ideal window. And then some models you'll see will even subtract hours spent above about 60 degrees because again, that's taking away from whatever benefit the trees get from the chill hours. And that's important if you have a climate like mine where we might get a lot of cold weather, but there are pockets of mild weather within that. So you can absolutely track your weather, calculate your own chill hours between 32 and 45, just follow that formula. And it might actually be really useful for you to do that, to either, use your own equipment and track your weather, or even if you just look at your weather app and just see how many hours you're spending within that window. That can be useful because chill hours can vary really widely, even within a single climate or a single area, even down the street from yours. If you take into account things like elevation and wind and just little microclimates, you might get really different results even in different parts of your own garden. So if you love data, you might want to do that. Thankfully, there are simpler ways of finding out your average chill hours. And so I would start with just doing a search, and you'll often find that certain states have interactive maps and charts where you can specifically look at, in your county or your city or your part of your area, how many chill hours you've gotten in recent winters and what is the average over the past several years. So I will link to some of those resources in the description of this video. You could just find, for example, a map of the whole United States that has average chill hours on it. And that can be really helpful to kind of get you in the ballpark, although I wouldn't rely on that too specifically, because when it's zoomed out that far, you can't really tell specific to your area. So probably for the most accurate chill hour information for your area, without going to the lengths of tracking your own weather, I would just call your local extension office. So Google, your county extension service and contact them, and they should be able to tell you pretty specifically what the average chill hours are for your area. So now that you found out your average chill hours, let's get down to the really good stuff, which is which fruit trees actually have a chilling requirement. Pretty much every fruit tree has a chilling requirement, with some exceptions. So citrus trees and most tropical plants don't have any chilling requirement, or if they do, it's so low that it doesn't really matter. But everything else needs a certain amount of chill time. Now, some of them are going to be naturally low chill trees. Some examples of some low chill trees would be figs, persimmons, pomegranates, quince trees, things like that. Many of those I have planted here because my chill hours are on the low side. But then there's going to be other trees that naturally have a lot more of a chilling requirement. And those are some of the really great standards, like peach trees, apple trees, pears, other stone fruits like plums, or like this cherry here. And that brings me to another point though, is that breeding has allowed them to come up with varieties and cultivars of all of these trees that don't need as many chilling hours as they would just naturally in the wild. So this is a low chill cherry tree. I also have a peach tree, I have apple and apricot trees, and I have been able to find low chill hour trees for all of these kinds of fruit trees. And so you can plant them in a much wider variety of climates than you probably could a long time ago. Now, the thing that is maddening about all of this is that chill hour information, as we've established in this video, super important, but it's usually not found on the plant tag of a plant that you buy at the nursery. Often you can't even find it on an online nursery in the description. They'll just skip that information altogether when it is absolutely crucial for if you actually want to grow fruit. So how do you figure out what trees are going to grow well in your area? Well, my favorite way is to go to a local nursery. A nursery that is not a big national chain that is going to only stock plants that grow well in your area. And if they have fruit trees, chances are it's going to be varieties that have been proven to do well in your location. Or even if they don't, you could probably ask them about the chilling hours for your area and what sorts of fruit trees they would recommend. So that is a great place to start. What I would not do, however, is avoid buying any fruit trees or fruiting plants from a big box store. So I speak from experience. I have succumbed to temptation in the past. I bought a couple years ago a few raspberry plants, and I thought this is going to be great, and I put them in the ground, and only later did I look them up to find out they were in no way suited to my climate. And guess what? They didn't make it. So yeah, don't buy your stuff from a big box store. They're going to stock the popular things that are going to sell, but they are not necessarily going to stock the things that are corresponding to your climate. It makes sense that you'd need to choose trees that need fewer chill hours than your climate gets on average to make sure that they get enough. But that begs the question, what does happen to fruit trees when they either get too much or too little chilling time? Your biggest problem comes when your fruit trees don't get nearly enough chill hours. So if that happens, if you have a particularly warm winter, your fruit tree will eventually come out of dormancy, but it may struggle to flower at all. Or maybe at best, if it does flower, the bloom is going to be delayed and it may bloom slower over a longer period of time, which means it probably won't pollinate as well. It's going to be more susceptible to diseases and things like that. So it causes all sorts of problems. And even if you do get fruit, chances are the fruit is going to be deformed or really small or just problematic in some ways. So that's when you run into the biggest problem with chill hours, when you miss the mark. Now, if you have way too many chill hours, let's say you have a tree that requires only 300 chill hours and you get 600. When it's that significant a difference, generally, you won't have as much of a problem, except for the fact that if you have a warm spell in the late winter and the tree has already clocked the chill time that it needs, then there's a really good chance it's going to wake up from dormancy early, and that's when it might get hit by late frosts, and you could have frost damage, which of course can hurt your fruit harvest. So the goal is to figure out what your chill hours average are for your area, and then to choose fruit trees that are going to generally fall well under that. So within a couple hundred hours of that average. So if my average is 700, I try to plant things that maybe top out at needing 600 hours. You can push that a little bit. You can plant a tree that needs the same number as your average, but just know that on those years when you have a warmer winter, it might not get the chilling hours it needs, and you may not get much of a harvest that year. Now, I cannot end this video without talking about one last very crucial thing. Let's talk about the difference between chill hours and cold hardiness. They both have something to do with cold, but they're very different and both super important. So now you know all about chill hours, but cold hardiness is just a measure of the lowest average temperature for an area. And this is just so you know whether or not a plant is going to make it through your winter at all. And what's important about this is that even though two places in the same growing zone might have the same cold hardiness, so they have the same average lowest temperature over their winter, but they could have vastly different chill hours. Just as an example, I'm here in Zone 8B, I'm in East Texas. Another Zone 8B spot is the southern part of North Carolina. So we have this very similar average lows over our winter, but they get 1,200 or more chill hours, whereas I only get 600 to 700. So you can see how that massively can impact what fruits are gonna grow well in our area. A frost may not kill the trees we have planted, but maybe one of us is gonna fruit and one of us isn't. So super important to know those two things and know how they work together to help you choose the right fruit trees to grow. Hopefully you can understand after watching this video why this concept of chilling hours is so important if you want to grow fruit trees. And let me know if you've made the same mistake I have of accidentally growing a fruit tree that doesn't match up with the chill hours in your area. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.